It's time!
3, 2, 1, go. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Strikes and Submissions here. I'm your host, Dorian Wright, along with Michael Daly. Mike, we got a new intro today. I know, I'm sure a lot of people love it. We love it here. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm great. Whenever you got a new intro, that's when you know things are going well. But it's great to be on with you. We got a lot to recap, a lot to preview. So why wait another second?
For sure. And everybody, first and foremost, make sure you drop a like on the video, share it. Follow us on, Instagram and Twitter. We've been breaking news all week. It's been a busy week, obviously, with the Super Bowl, with 271, a whole lot of going on. Shouts out Marissa. New intro, super fire. And let's get right into it, Mike. No need to waste any time. So we start off with a light topic, a funny topic, if you will. Kevin Holland is back. Sparring trolls. He does a thing where, he has guys DMing him on Instagram all the time saying, hey, I could take you down. I would tap you out. These people are delusional. And he invites them. He flies them out to whatever city he's in, and he pays for their hotel, pays for their flights, and gets them in the gym and see if they can, hold their own, as they say, hold their word. Mike, I don't know if you saw the video, but what were your initial thoughts? Because this is now the second time he's done it.
Dorian, I have a public service announcement for anyone out there who thinks this is a good idea. Do not do this. Under any circumstances, this is not a good idea. Kevin Holland is trained by Travis Lutter. I don't care how vulnerable people think he is on the ground. He will whoop any average person's behind in any facet of mixed martial arts. When I understood what it meant to be a troll and how trolls can be taken care of is back in 2014 when Deontay Wilder handled that one troll who he invited to his gym and showed him what it was all about. Showed him that it doesn't look the same as it looks on television. So again, a public service announcement. Do not, under any circumstances, turn your Twitter fingers to fist against Kevin Holland. Don't do it.
Yeah, and especially against a guy like Kevin Holland. Like, if you want to pick on somebody, go find an unranked guy that
even then, that's a bad idea. Like, just don't pick on a pro MMA fighter.
I mean, I agree with you, but out of all guys to pick on,
exactly,
Big Mouth ain't the one to pick on. And for those of you who haven't seen the video, first off, he posted on his OnlyFans. So you got to go to his OnlyFans and subscribe for the full video. But he posts like the clips on his Instagram. The first video was a guy saying he could take him down and submit him. And Kevin Holland stuffs the dude's takedowns and just folds him up, submits him easy. And then this most recent video, he hit this dude with like 5 straight body kicks. Like, I don't know about you, man. That had my stomach in knots when he was hitting him. He hit him with like 3, 4, 5 straight body kicks. The dude dropped. And I don't know. It was just really fun to see because, like Chase says, if you really want to challenge a professional fighter, you want to get your ass whooped. That's all it is. You just want your ass whooped. And that's okay. Some people need that in their everyday life. This guy got what he wanted. And shouts out Kevin Holland for, giving fans, because at the end of the day, the trolls are fans too. He's giving fans an opportunity to see, hey, this ain't it. Just because, Derek Brunson can do it doesn't mean you can. It's different.
At the end of the day, these guys get paid to fight. They are trained assassins. We talk about MMA fighters and boxers and any other martial artist as kind of everyday people, but they're modern day gladiators. But even more so, like I said, they are assassins. If they wanted to kill somebody, they could. That's what they know how to do every single day. They are working on their respective craft. And to think that an everyday Joe could come into any gym and handle business against Kevin Holland, it's just delusional.
It's delusional. And I hope the delusion continues. And Mike, for our sake, I do think it will continue. Because people are always going to, now there's going to be fans who come out and, oh, I saw you fight the last dude, fight me, I'm better. And it's gonna continue to escalate. Hopefully we can get a good fight out of it, because it's just been him smoking dudes so far. But who knows? Maybe they'll get signed to the UFC. Yeah, side quest is a good way to put it, Nader. Just a side quest.
They're not getting signed to the UFC, by the way. I mean, this is not going to turn out well for anybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a hospital bill waiting to happen, I think.
Yeah, it's stupid. It is stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving along, we have a little bit more serious of a topic. Logan Paul, obviously YouTube star, Disney star, along with his brother, boxed in an exhibition, the greatest of all time, Floyd Money Mayweather, back in, what was this, last year?
June.
Was it June? I thought
it was June 6th.
June 6th. Wow. Okay, so moral of the story, Logan says, hey, man, I haven't gotten my back end. I haven't gotten the money for the pay-per-views. And Floyd stiffed me, basically, because I did it all through Floyd's, Mayweather promotions. And Floyd's came out and basically say, hey, man, suck it up. It's business, and you'll get your money when you get your money. I'm still getting pay-per-view checks from 7-8 fights ago. I'm still getting my back end from it. So you can wait a couple years for yours. I don't know. It's kind of hard to really give an assessment on this without the details on what he's actually missing, how many installments were supposed to be given. But Mike, what were your overall thoughts, and do you believe Logan Paul at the end of the day?
I would like to say I do believe Logan Paul. I don't think he would just make that up out of thin air. I don't think he would be in the process of filing a lawsuit while other people have filed lawsuits against Floyd Mayweather for Mayweather Paul. I would like to believe, again, like I just said, that there is some merit. There is some base to this potential lawsuit or these claims that Paul is making. However, I do think Logan Paul should have known what he was getting himself into. Because Floyd Mayweather, since 2007, has been his own promoter. He works with Al Heyman, but I would say mainly that's because it would help him get fighters. Because if you remember, Floyd used to work with Oscar De La Hoya for about 7 years with Golden Boy before Richard Schaefer left. Floyd was his own, essentially, agent, manager, promoter, all of these kind of things. He had Leonard Ellaby running the back end, but still, I think Logan should have known what he was getting himself into. All in all, what I will say, though, if there is a contract, I think you got to stick to it. That's what I think. I think if there is a contract where a fighter's supposed to get X amount of dollars, I think they got to receive it. Whether it's with pay-per-view or whatever, they should receive it.
I agree with that. And let's just be clear. Logan has gotten his front end. It's just the back end with the pay-per-view numbers he's supposed to get, whatever split it is. So Logan's gotten paid, but just not in full. And Floyd, I don't know if you watch The Pivot, but they have their nice podcast over there, Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder. And they were interviewing Floyd recently, and he said, hey, I'm still getting pay-per-views from actual fights 7-8 years ago. Like, I'm still getting my checks from them. So for you to think for an exhibition, you're going to get your pay-per-view money in 5-6 months, no, the numbers are still rolling in. And Floyd kind of made a joke about it and said, you're used to YouTube. You upload a video on YouTube, you get a certain amount of views, and you get that check right away. This ain't that. This is boxing. And, I've heard a lot of different opinions on this, a lot of different views. And one of the opinions I heard, and I had to look into it, this fight wasn't sanctioned by an athletic commission. Let's just be clear. It was a strict exhibition. Showtime did present it under Showtime Boxing, but it wasn't a boxing match that's sanctioned by the Florida Athletic Commission. Just wasn't. So when it comes to pay, as you know, as the B side, Logan Paul, you have to deal with Floyd and his team directly. And, you know, however the finances is getting split, you know, 6, 7, 8 months after the fight, is kind of up to them. It's not really up to you. And I don't know if a lawsuit would help. I think a lawsuit might make it worse, actually, in my opinion.
To counter your point, Dorian, I have to disagree with you on that point. Yes, this will result in Logan Paul losing money out of the pie, so to speak. He's going to make less money because a lot of fees are going to be going to lawyers. Time has gone by. He's not getting paid. I do think it is necessary, though, even if he doesn't file a lawsuit, to call Floyd out. Because from a business standpoint, it's not right. And I think it's going to shine a light on a lot of Floyd's fighters who fight under the Mayweather promotion, saying, wait a minute, if Logan Paul, who is a self-made guy who ventured over into boxing when he didn't need to, is getting gypped out of money, what's going to happen to me when I feed my family through boxing? So actually, I agree with Logan. I think this is smart. Now, he's going to take a financial hit out of it. I don't think he's going to receive everything he thought he was going to. Lawyers have to be paid, and they will be paid handsomely. But I think it's the right thing to do if he feels like he was wronged in this scenario, so that no one else moving forward is wronged. From a business standpoint and the practice of it, I think Logan Paul's doing the right thing.
That's fair. I think, yeah, calling Floyd out is good if, you know, if you've been stiff for your money. But the only difference with, you know, Mayweather's fighters, I think Mayweather wants to get his guys paid. Mayweather's not stealing money out of his fighters' pockets, because Mayweather has, he's going to take care of his fighters. He's not going to steal money out of their pockets. He has his own money. And even if he didn't, Floyd could come back at the drop of a dime, box any YouTuber, any MMA fighter, and make $10 million like that, which is more than these boxers will likely make in their entire careers.
Yeah, but Dorian, what you just said is valid, right? To this point, he has taken care of his fighters. But if he did this to Logan Paul, what's going to stop him doing this to Rolly Romero? What is going to stop him from doing this to Badu Jack? Someone who isn't Logan Paul.
I think it's different business. It's different business. When you're a promoter and the fighter, you're working for yourself. You're working for your financial gain. And Floyd has been on record, even when he wasn't the sole promoter. Hey, I'm the A side. I'm getting 70%. Be happy with the 30 that you're getting. That was the big deal with him and Pacquiao for years. Pacquiao says, hey, I'm a huge draw. What are you talking about? It's 50-50. And Floyd said, okay, you wait on that. And he made Pacquiao wait because Floyd is the A side. But when it comes to him promoting his fighters, I think, for example, a Rolly Romero, Gervonta Davis fight, he's not worried about stiffing one of those guys. If they're both his guys, he's going to get both of them paid and then take whatever is left. Take what's the promoter's supposed to be, the promoter fee, as opposed to when he's fighting Logan Paul, he's taking the promoter's fee and the A side fee, and Logan's just going to get his B side fee.
Floyd's doing the right thing from a business standpoint in terms of trying to make the lion's share. I get that 100%. But what he's doing is wrong. I think it's wrong. If you sign a contract, if you set up a fight with somebody, even if they're not going to be paid 6 months down the line or where we're at now, 8 months, you should let them know, hey, the money will trickle in down the line. From what has been said, that was not indicated to Logan Paul. It was going to take a while. I think he knew that, because that's typical with pay-per-view. You don't get the money right away. You get a check later on. But 8 months down the road is when you should start getting some money, even before then. Yeah. And I get it. There are differences where 7 years later it could come in because the check didn't go somewhere. I get it. But from a business standpoint, I think Floyd was in the wrong. And Logan has every right to call him out. Same way Floyd has every right to say, hey, you can hold on. I think Logan is, in a way, kind of doing what his brother has done. Championing other fighters, saying, hey, look, be wary of this. Because if it could happen to me, it could happen to you.
Well, yes. And
it could, though. This could happen to a fighter, because it has.
Absolutely, 100%. This could and likely has and likely will continue to happen to plenty of fighters.
Wait, Dorian, can I respond? I got to respond to one comment here with Chase. He said, I blame Showtime more than Floyd. I don't. Because from what Logan said, because Logan went on his podcast, Impulsive, and talked about it, Floyd was the one who was ironing out the contract. Yes, Floyd gets money from Showtime, but still, Floyd was the one doing the negotiations. He was the promotional arm in this scenario. Floyd was the one who was buying out a bunch of seats and then selling them. So Floyd has a big hand in this. Let's not act like this is all Showtime, because when Floyd's involved, it's bigger than Steven Espinoza. It's bigger than Viacom or CBS. Floyd is the one calling the shots here. So I just had to respond to that.
I agree 100% with that. And this should be a lesson for not only Logan, but any, not just YouTuber, just any celebrities going into this celebrity boxing space. Be smart. And I'll use this as an example here. When Conor fought Floyd, Conor was the hottest thing smoking, right, in the UFC. Probably, just won the title, right, featherweight, I believe. And he says, hey, I don't know what's next for me. I might have to go drag Floyd and see, I might have to go in the ring and drag Floyd, right? Okay, cool. When they came together and officially agreed, the very, very, very first thing Dana White in the UFC said, we're co-promoting this. We're not going to let Floyd do it all by himself. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the poster now. It has Mayweather Promotions and then McGregor Promotions right next to it and the UFC banner on it. So Logan, I think Jake has the MVP Promotions, I believe it's called.
Yep.
Or just MVP. I think the P stands for promotion. So Jake has Most Valuable Promotions. He probably should have called Logan and said, hey, I know it's Floyd. I know he's the draw, but let's get our banner on this so that it can be handled accordingly. Because if you let one promoter do it all, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And we all know Floyd loves money. And if you can stiff somebody and not to say that Floyd will never pay him, you just might have to wait 2, 3, 4 years to get all of your money as opposed to getting it all in one lump sum as he thought he was going to get. So I think this is a learning lesson for not only Logan, but his brother as well. His brother knows because his brother has MVP under every Jake Paul fight. You see MVP, MVP, MVP. Amanda Serrano fighting, MVP right next to it. So I think it's very, very important that Floyd made an entire career out of becoming his own boss and being vocal about this is why I bought myself out of my HBO contract and for $750K, and then my next 3 fights I made $750 million. That's not a trick. That's not a joke. That's not luck. Floyd is a shrewd businessman. Yeah. And this is what happens in business, not for nothing. And last thing I'll say, I don't sympathize with Logan because I know he's already well off and he's coming to boxing as a side thing, as a side gig. If he was a boxer who, feeds his family through this, like the UFC, we talk about fighter pay a lot on here, then I would have a little more sympathy. But it's like, you're kind of making a mockery of the sport. You're 50, 60 pounds bigger than Floyd. You're trying to box him, and now you want your money. You can wait.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. Because look, at the end of I don't care how big you are. I don't care what your experience is. If you sign a contract, it should be honored, or at least there should be some sort of guidance saying, look, the money will trickle in later. That's all I'm saying, and that's the last thing I'll say on that. I don't think it's fair to say, because he's not a true professional, you don't have sympathy. I don't think that's right, but.
Teach their own. I guess I'm more of a shrewd guy, but yeah, I do think he'll learn from this, and ultimately, coming out maybe not the best thing, but we'll see how it plays out in court. I think Floyd's undefeated in court as well, but we can move along here. This weekend, we have a great main event. It got moved. Unfortunately, Islam and Dariush look like it's going to be off. And RDA and Fazeev were supposed to be on this card, actually main eventing, and they're getting pushed back to the next pay-per-view. So we got Jamal Hill, Johnny Walker, 5 rounds at 205. Mike, who you like in this one?
I like Johnny Walker, but I'm going to say I'm not entirely confident about it because with Johnny Walker, you don't really know what you're going to get. He's a guy who started his UFC career with 3 consecutive wins. He was hotter than fish grease. Everyone was on the Johnny Walker train. Everyone was loving them some Johnny Walker. Highlight reel knockouts. If it went to the ground, he could hold his own there. He was looking solid. And then lost to Corey Anderson, Nikita Krylov, another loss as well. He has lost 3 of his last 4 fights. I think Johnny Walker is going to win, but this is a fight that, I do not think should have been a main event in the first place because it wouldn't have been, but because of the injury that took place and Fazeev, or not injury, I think it was a visa issue, but with Fazeev and Dos Anjos, that fight had to get moved, and now we get this. I think it's going to be a striking affair. That's the way I see it. Jamal Hill has power. Look what he did to Jimmy Crute. Got a stoppage victory after bouncing back from the Paul Craig defeat. So I don't think Johnny Walker is going to get a stoppage, but I do think Johnny Walker has a shot to box on the outside, land those signature leg kicks, the calf kicks, and he should get a decision victory in my eyes, Dorian.
That's fair. I think the last minute shift for this being a 5-round fight favors Johnny Walker. He has been a main event. He has gone the full 5-5s. So I do think Johnny Walker has the advantage with that. I just don't think it's going that far. Jamal Hill has serious power in his hands. Looking now, he's a 2.5 favorite, 2.5 to 1 favorite, minus 265 for FanDuel. I'm looking at right now.
Hill's the favorite?
Jamal Hill's the favorite.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
I see it going fairly similar to the Jimmy Crute fight. Maybe not as fast. I do think Johnny Walker's chin held up decently against Thiago Santos, given, Santos' power. But I do think Jamal Hill's boxing is so clean. He might have the best boxing at 205. It might be a little early to say that, but he's coming up in the ranks. If he can get a win over Johnny Walker, he puts himself in immediate title contention, fighting, maybe even fighting Thiago Santos next. But I do think Jamal Hill gets a stoppage here, probably some ground and pound. I see Johnny Walker maybe lasting 2-3 rounds, given his movement. But I think it's going to get later on in the fight, and Jamal Hill is going to catch him and put him down.
That's the only way he wins. And when I'm thinking of someone who is smaller than Johnny Walker, you have to be able to cut that distance. I don't think he's going to be able to cut the distance against Johnny Walker. I could be proven wrong. Corey Anderson did it. Nikita Krylov did well as well. And a bunch of other guys too. But Jamal Hill, I think, has to rush him from the start of this fight if he's really going to win this one. I think he has to make Walker respect his power, especially because now it is a 5-round bout. And the biggest thing I am curious to see in this fight, what is Johnny Walker's corner going to do if this fight goes long? Are they going to feed him information that's not true like they did against Santos? I remember you and I spoke about it. They were telling him, hey, you're up, when he wasn't. And then because of that, he coasted. I think John Kavanagh, anyone else in his corner, they have to figure out, okay, what is the complexion of this fight? How is it going for my fighter? And then relay that information. I thought Robert Whittaker's corner last weekend did a great job of saying, hey, look, you're down. You need to show us something. You need to get it together. On the opposite, Kavanagh didn't do that. Kavanagh was like, hey, you got this. Take it easy, pretty much. And that cost his fighter the fight. This time around, If Walker is able to make that adjustment where for 5 rounds he's putting on a good showing, he's working kicks to the body, strikes to the body, popping off a jab, keeping his distance to allow that right hand, that explosive right hand from Hill from landing, I think Walker has a good shot. But that coaching, that advice in the corner, I think is going to be very crucial because it cost his fighter the last time.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up because SBC Ireland has been, some would say, a detriment to Johnny Walker's success because Johnny Walker was so big on unpredictability and just wild spinning, crazy techniques, just out of the box, very Michel Pereira-ish. And when he went to SBC Ireland, they kind of made him into a point fighter. And I think that's why he lost to Thiago Santos ultimately, as well as the bad information that they were telling him. But I think it's almost too late to change that now. If they've truly made Johnny Walker a point fighter, they've taken away his very best attribute. And I think his very best attribute was his unpredictability. And without that unpredictability, I don't see how you can get in on Jamal Hill and do any damage if you couldn't against Thiago Santos.
I see it the exact opposite. I think his unpredictability is what cost him from being an elite light heavyweight. Remember that Ryan Spann fight that he won? If you remember, Dorian, he almost got knocked out because he was being loosey-goosey, unpredictable, had his hands down, walking forward, playing too much, like Michel Pereira. That unpredictability catches up to you after a while. You can only do that for so long. For him to keep doing that would be a terrible idea. So actually, I think it's a good idea that he's point fighting because even if he decides to break off a little bit from point fighting, he's never going to get back to where he was dropping his hands like he did against Corey Anderson, and he was just showboating the whole time. Now I think you're going to see a more measured version of him because you have. If he did what he did against Ryan Spann, against Thiago Santos last October, he was getting knocked out. I'm sorry. So to say that he needs to go back to his reckless ways, that's wrong. I think that's going to get him knocked out if he goes back to that and avoids point fighting.
I mean, I don't want him to be completely reckless because he's fighting a higher level of competition now than when he first came in the UFC. He was just knocking guys out left and right. I do think that his unpredictability was a big reason his opponents were standing there to begin with. If you know Johnny Walker is going to be a point fighter, you can walk him down. And I think if Jamal Hill feels him out in the first round, feels his power, maybe takes a shot or two, and realizes he don't really have what everyone was saying to be afraid of. If Jamal Hill walks him down, this is going to get ugly extremely fast. It's going to get bloody extremely fast. And I think Jamal Hill walks out unscathed damn near if Johnny Walker isn't putting power into his shots and just touching him with leg kicks and touching him with jabs. I don't think he'll win rounds, but I'm not banking on Johnny Walker to win 4 or 5 rounds against Jamal Hill without some level of unpredictability. Because we haven't seen anyone even come close to beating Jamal Hill. I mean, Paul Craig beat him, but that was grappling. He got him down, kind of pulled guard, jumped for the armbar. But on the feet, Jamal Hill hasn't shown any weaknesses. And if you're not going to be prepared to throw a spinning back fist, you're likely going to get slept.
But Dorian, what do you want Johnny Walker to do? Because you're saying you want him to be unpredictable because if he point fights, he's going to get knocked out. But guess what? If he's unpredictable, he's getting knocked out. So what do you want him to do?
I want him to go back to what got him to the dance. I'm not saying be the same fighter you were when you came into the UFC, but you should still hold those you should hold those fundamentals and those basics that you learned close to you and ride it till the wheels fall off. I'll give you a great example. Tony Ferguson, when he came in and he was just doing crazy stuff and what's it called? Snap jitsu or whatever they call it. Everyone was like, yeah, oh my God, what is he doing? This is crazy. 12-fight win streak. It doesn't look so crazy now. And now later on, some things happen and we realize he can't get off his back because he doesn't know the fundamentals, then you work on it. But I don't think Johnny Walker was in a position in his career where he needed to completely do a 180. He got knocked out. Okay, cool. It happens. Corey Anderson's different. And Corey Anderson did say it's levels to this. Leading up to that fight, he was saying it's a levels to this. Johnny Walker's not on my level. And he wasn't. But that wasn't due to his lack of fundamentals or his unpredictability. I just think Corey Anderson was better than him at the time. Now, you give me a guy, Jamal Hill, who's known to stand and box, not even strike. Jamal Hill's going to box him. Johnny Walker knows that coming in. You got to throw some wheel kicks. You got to throw some spinning stuff. And if you stand there and try to box with Jamal Hill, I don't think that's a recipe for success. That's how I see it. I don't have the answer for him. I'm not John Kavanaugh. That's up to those boys to get that figured out. But to completely turn this explosive, dynamic striker into a 1-2 and leg kick guy, I don't know. Me personally, I don't think that's the best recipe for success, but I can be wrong.
He probably has to find a happy medium, but I think if we're trying to mold him into the guy he was in 2019 when he was coming up and lighting the UFC on Fighter and the Dana White Contender Series, he's going to get slapped. I don't think he is, though. I think him point fighting, he's also 6'5", for crying out loud here. And I think he's going to make the most of that size advantage. I think he's going to be able to slick out of the pocket. With point fighting, there could be an issue where people will call it a quote-unquote boring fight because that's what a lot of people do. And that's what they did against Thiago Santos. They labeled it a boring fight, but he didn't really get hurt. Look, Thiago Santos can put a hurting on people, especially the older version of Thiago Santos, or I should say a few years ago. But still, Thiago Santos has lightning in the bottle, and he can put it on you if he wants. He didn't really that fight. I think in this fight, 6 months or 4 months, however long ago it was in October, you were going to see a more refined version of Johnny Walker.
Let's hope so. Because I do want to see this be a good fight, not for nothing.
The card needs it to be a good fight, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. And let's see. All right, so we had 271. I mean, some of us were way off. I'll be the first to say I was way off with my prediction for the main event. I thought Izzy was going to style on him and get him out of there early like he did the first time. And he didn't, went the full 5. I've been seeing a whole bunch of nonsense. I see people saying Robert Whittaker won the fight. I've been seeing people saying, oh my God, Izzy doesn't have to do anything now. I don't even want to start there though. Last 3 fights, because Derek Brunson, Jared Cannonier, to me, was the most exciting fight of the night. And I say that because Derek Brunson was putting it on Cannonier to start it off. Had a rear naked choke sunk in at the end. Cannonier gets saved by the bell. And it looked like Brunson kind of had an adrenaline dump. And that second round, it did not look good. Cannonier caught him with some vicious, and vicious isn't even the word, brutal elbows on the ground. His corner threw the towel, and I've never seen that in MMA or the UFC. I've seen it in Bellator. I've not seen that in the UFC. A cornerman throw a towel. I don't know. That was crazy. And then obviously Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, that was an exciting fight. You were talking about swinging and banging. Another vicious elbow. Tai hits Derek Lewis with, face plants him. That was sad to see. And then we had a great main event. So a little bit of controversy, Mike. I'll let you have the floor. What were your overall thoughts on the card?
The card was great. I'm actually going to answer Chase's question. What about BMF Bobby Green's fight? Bobby Green did what he had to do. I mean, he is going through a renaissance right now. And then 10 days from now, he's going to be fighting Islam Makhachev. So that just goes to show what kind of a warrior Bobby Green is. But those last 3 fights, I think, set the table for the card as a whole. I think it really put the card into perspective, how it could go any way. You never really know. Derek Brunson was winning that fight until he wasn't. And
Handily.
yeah, he was up. He was wrestling in the first round. But what did we say last week, Dorian? We said the longer this fight stays on the feet, the more dangerous Cannonier is. Lo and behold, Cannonier was like, all right, I can kind of brush off these takedowns, or from getting taken down, I can get back up. And then boom, he was able to take over. You don't really want to stand with Jared Cannonier. There's only 2 guys in the middleweight division who I think can stand with him. Obviously, Robert Whittaker, because he did, and Israel Adesanya. Those are the only 2 guys who I think truly can stand up with Jared Cannonier without getting knocked out in brutal fashion. Look what Cannonier said. I turned blonde Brunson into bloody Brunson.
That was a nice one-liner.
It was a nice
That's probably the best
one-liner.
one-liner of the entire night.
It was nice, and it was directed at Dana too, which I appreciated because he's calling for that title shot. And also, Cannonier said, look, I was able to turn the tables like this. If it's on the feet constantly for a fight, he can do the same exact thing. That's why I think Cannonier is going to be a threat. And then for Tuivasa Lewis, I was on the edge of my seat because at any moment, something was going to happen where someone was going to get knocked out, and that's exactly what happened. I thought Tuivasa was going to get knocked out. Not only before the fight, like we talked about, but during. There was a point where Lewis was hitting him with some ground and pound, and it did not seem like Tai Tuivasa was going to be able to survive. Lewis, if I'm not mistaken, took him down, right?
Yeah, got a little body lock, inside trip, landed like 4 or 5 big shots. I didn't think Ty was getting up, but Ty literally just stood up and ate it like it was nothing. Yeah,
he took him down. He was in control, but the thing is, it doesn't matter who you are. If you trade with a big boy like Tai Tuivasa or Derek Lewis, you're getting put to sleep. And that was a brutal knockout. I feel for Derek Lewis. I do. Because Derek Lewis got a much-needed win over Chris Daukaus in December. That was the one that I thought he was going to lose that fight. I'll admit it. I thought Daukaus was going to beat him. But he won that fight, and that was great. And he was winning the fight against Tuivasa, and then he made the mistake. He got jabbed, stunned, and then that elbow hit and ended it. And then for the main event, I think we'll just address the elephant in the room. I thought Robert Whittaker won when I was watching it live. When I watched it live, I thought he won. However, I'll admit this. I fell victim to holding the superstars in combat sports to this unattainable expectation. By that I mean, when you talk about John Jones, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor, boxing, we could talk about Floyd Mayweather when he was active, Canelo, Vasily Lomachenko, guys like that. They're expected to dominate the fight from pillar to post. Israel Adesanya, the same goes for him. When someone has some success against him, it's a mark on his record. And because of that, when someone lands a takedown after getting dropped like Whittaker was dropped, people take that as a W for Whittaker. And I fell victim to that. So I'll admit it. I had it 3-2 Rob. I watched the fight again. I flipped it 3-2 Adesanya.
that's crazy. One thing I do want to say about the co-main event, I think the UFC has hit it off in the heavyweight division. Tai Tuivasa is that superstar that they're looking for. Knocks people out, does a shoey. Tai is going to get the push. I think probably going to have another interim title bout. I don't know if they give it to Cyril Gane because he lost.
Probably not.
So if John Jones doesn't take the Stipe fight, I could see Tai Tuivasa getting an interim title fight off of this performance. And not for nothing, he deserves it because, Cyril Gane didn't do to Derek Lewis what Tai Tuivasa did to Derek Lewis, with all due respect. And yeah, for the main event, when I was watching it, I'll admit I was out. I was out and about. I was at a nice little sports bar on vacation, and I'm looking. And in the bar, a lot of people were in there just drunk watching fights. I don't think they actually knew much about fights. They were just those fans like, yeah, bleed, those type of fans. So I didn't want to take into what the room was saying. But everybody in the room all said, wow, every time Robert takes Izzy down, he gets back up as if that meant nothing. And I wasn't talking to everybody because I'm very locked in, dialed in when I'm watching fights. So I'm just like, please stop talking to me type of thing. But in my head, I'm like, man, this whole camp leading up, you included, oh, Rob's a different fighter. His grappling now. And I told you, he's not. But okay. All of those takedowns Robert Whittaker got meant absolutely nothing. Not one of them meant a damn thing. And I say that because if you take someone down and they scramble to the fence and get up to their feet before you can land ground and pound, you did nothing. You didn't lay and pray on them like Jan did. You had no ground and pound, and you couldn't maintain top position. So I didn't score those takedowns effectively at all. I do think when Rob took his back, I think that might have been the fourth round, I believe. Rob took his back. I was a little afraid, but then Izzy literally just shrugged him off as if it meant nothing. And I was like, okay, this fight's over. The fifth round, I think Izzy kind of was chilling. I think Rob won the fifth round handily. I think that's fair to say. I had it 4-1 Izzy. I don't see how the judges had it 3-2. I don't see how you had it 3-2 I don't see how anybody had it for Rob.
Oh God.
I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm biased.
You are, yeah.
Izzy, I'll admit, he's in my top 3 of favorite fighters. He's probably number 2 active. So maybe I'm biased, but I just didn't think that Rob did anything to beat Izzy. I think Izzy controlled the distance. Izzy walked him down for 5 rounds. That was a shock to me. I thought Izzy was going to be a lot more patient and let Rob come to him. But Izzy walked him down for 5 rounds, dropped him at the end of the first round, and controlled him with leg kicks, made Rob switch stances. Rob don't switch stances. Rob is not a switch stance fighter. I don't know. I think to beat the champ, you got to really beat the champ, take the belt off of him. I don't think Rob won more than a round. Sorry.
I cannot believe you are disrespecting a former champion the way you are against Robert Whittaker.
No disrespect. That's just my assessment of what I saw.
Okay. So, first off, last week, and I put up Chase's comment here because Robert Whittaker has improved as a fighter. And I knew coming into this fight, he had more confidence, but also he was humbled from that result against Adesanya in 2019. So he was coming into this fight with a different perspective. Maybe I am falling for it. But when Marvin Vettori, who is known to be a grappler or a wrestler, struggled taking down Adesanya in their last fight, and Robert Whittaker, who by all measures is not looked at as a great grappler, is able to do that several times, I'm sorry, that counts for something. It does. Regardless of whether he was able to do anything with it or not, I don't think matters. What matters is context. Israel Adesanya is a hard guy to take down. Jan Blachowicz would disagree with that, but outside of Jan, who has really dominated Izzy on the ground? No one. It's hard to do that, let alone land a takedown on him. Say what you will, the fact that Robert Whittaker was able to do that, he deserves some points on the scorecards for that. So maybe it wasn't enough to win the fight. I don't think it was, but I thought he won round 2, and I thought he won round 5 because you said it yourself. He got dropped in round 1. It seemed like it was over. Israel was going to put on the pace, but Rob is a different fighter. He made in-fight adjustments, went to grappling. He showed that it wasn't a bluff like he was talking about, and he got the job done. Not enough to get the win, but enough to win the public over.
I'll agree with the one point that you and Chase are trying to make. After getting dropped in the first, because it's towards the end of the first, completely deja vu.
Yeah.
Rob had a chance to basically, have the same exact result as the last fight. Okay, I got dropped at the end of the first. I'm just gonna rush in the second, and if it doesn't work, I get knocked out again. It is what it is. You're right. He composed himself. He was humble in his loss, and he did fight a smarter fight. Round 2 was close. I gave that one to Izzy, but I do recall it was iffy, I guess, if you want to give Rob 2 rounds out of respect. But I just don't see – he was 4 of 10 from his takedowns, according to the UFC stats. 4 of 10 is 40%. That's okay, I guess, for a guy who's hard to take down. But
no, that is good. For Izzy, people want to put up – sorry, Dorian. People want to put up this narrative that Izzy's the skinny guy. Izzy's big. And to be able to take him down when you're a 185er, that counts for something.
Yeah, I mean, 4 of 10. I'll give him credit for getting Israel to the ground. But I think if he would have held top control at least once, maybe to, ride out a round. Like if he took him down with like 2 minutes left and just laid on him for 2 minutes, I would gladly say, wow, Robert Whittaker did something with that takedown. But if you take a guy down and he pops right back up and he's back to kicking your leg off and jabbing your face, I don't know. He didn't, and that's another thing. He was gassing himself out trying for those takedowns more so than Izzy was getting gas, getting up. Because Izzy whole time, and he even said it, I think The Rock tweeted it during, it's crazy, he's in the round 5 of a championship fight and Izzy's still breathing out of his nose. Like Izzy made it look, I don't want to say he made it look easy because he didn't. He made it look easy the very first time they fought. But he wasn't threatened at all. His words, not mine. He didn't say he wasn't threatened at all. He never felt any danger. He said the only shot that Rob really, really hit him with was like a triple jab that popped his head back in like the 5th round. He was like, oh, good job. And other than that, I think Izzy did enough. And you started off with a great point. I do want to touch on this. We hold these athletes of the upper echelon, if you will, to a higher standard. So when a guy wins a round, I think he won 2 rounds. Oh, I think he won the fight. Oh, It's close. Let's just pump the brakes. I wrote this down right after the fight. I take my notes during the fight so I can bust you up on the show with a clear mind. Because if I
clearly
wait,
you don't do a good job with that. That's all right.
I wrote down, I think Izzy easily beat Rob, and it reminds me of John Jones in the latter half of his career, where he was getting, that split decision over Thiago Santos, which was yeah, I agree, Chase. He made a tough fight look easy. It was a chess match, but for Izzy, it was easy. And I think a terrible scorecard gave that fight to Thiago Santos stop. But when John Jones has close decisions and he's taking guys to decision and they win 1 round, hey, did they win the fight? Dominic Reyes, he arguably won the fight. John Jones John Jones is running from the division. And I think Izzy has gotten to that point in his career where if you win an exchange with him or you win 1 round with him, people will give the other guy the fight. And I do also believe Izzy is probably tired of rematches because he's just done 2 back-to-back, Vettori and Robert Whittaker. Made it look easy in both. And aside from Cannonier and Sean Strickland, there's not many other contenders that are left for him to clean out the division again. So I think it's going to be tough for him to make it look any better than he did the very first time. So I don't know. I think, I also wrote down Israel should stop insulting John Jones now. I don't know if you saw his Valentine's Day tweet.
No.
So Izzy made a reference to John's most recent domestic violence thing. It said John Jones on Valentine's Day and giving his wife a gift. And it was like a guy wrapping his hands up. it's not a funny joke. If you know anybody who goes through domestic violence, it's not something
funny.
you joke about. And also, this fight, I always thought John Jones would beat Izzy, but this fight really, really, really made me think John Jones would hurt Israel Adesanya. If Robert Whittaker can get you down to the ground 4 times, John Jones would hurt, like put Izzy out of commission for a really, really long time. So I do think he should stop trying to chase that fight until he gets better takedown defense. And his takedown defense is excellent, but it ain't John Jones' defense excellent. So that's pretty much all. That's all I really had to say about the fight.
The last thing I'll say on it, to your latest point with John Jones, they're always going to have bad blood, but Israel lost his chance to fight John Jones when he couldn't beat Jan Blachowicz.
Yep.
I think had he beaten Jan Blachowicz last March, eventually that fight against John Jones would have been made because, okay, you could beat this guy who's a wrestler, who has power, and is a very experienced light heavyweight. He couldn't do that. John said, all right, my time as a 205er officially done because I'm not fighting him at heavyweight. I would only be fighting Adesanya at light heavyweight. So let's put that to rest, and John did that. And I think now it's time for Izzy to continue dominating the middleweight division because I don't see a light heavyweight appearance in his future. I don't. I think he has to stay at 185 pounds because if he fights Yuri Prohaska, if he fights Glover Teixeira, I think he loses to those guys.
Oof. It's hard because Eugene Behrman said that if and when they do go back up, they're not going to take the same approach they had. I'm just going to move up. And what he weighing, like 198 or something like that? Like he wasn't a 205er. So Eugene did say the next time we move up, I'm going to build Izzy into a proper light heavyweight so he can have that strength to deal with Jan's wrestling. Because Jan's probably walking around 230, 240-ish, cutting the 205. And so, yeah, when he's on top of you, it's different. I do think if Izzy were to fight Yuri, that would be a huge fight. That probably wouldn't have any grappling in it. I like Izzy's chances in that. As just a striker in general, if you're going to give me a guy who is not going to shoot for a takedown, I'm taking Izzy over him 10 times out of 10 just because I believe in Izzy striking. Now, with Glover, he is a bit older, but his single leg would get Izzy. I think he would probably get Izzy out of there because Glover knows how to stay on top of somebody when he gets him down. Because Glover don't shoot for many takedowns, but he'll grab that single. But I think if Yuri is to beat Glover, I don't have him beating Glover. But if Yuri were to win, I think Izzy would probably move up immediately to try to go back and recapture to be champ. And then, he said he wants to go up to heavyweight. I don't know how realistic that is.
Nah.
I don't know if a commission would let him, given the fact that he's not even 200 pounds soaking wet. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but as long as I'm just happy he has a new challenger in Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland, if he gets another win, Sean Strickland's probably next up. Obviously, Darren Till is always just a win or two away because Izzy loves him. And you do have a guy like, a Jack Hermanson who's new blood. Hamzat Chimaev was tweeting at him, saying he'd be easy work in one round because he has no wrestling. Izzy told him to fight somebody at middleweight before, coming up. But I do think, and obviously the big joker is Alex Pereira. And if he can get a few wins, I think Izzy would love that rematch. So Izzy has new blood at 85. I do think he beats all of them, not for nothing, fairly easily. But I do think Cannonier is his toughest challenge out of those guys I just named.
Cannonier's probably the one guy who I think could knock him out. And Izzy said something in an interview with Ariel Helwani that I thought was profound. Ariel asked him about Hamzat, like you just mentioned. Hamzat called him out, called him easy work. Izzy said, yes, I've been impressed with him, but he's only really fought one guy at middleweight, for the most part, he's really been a welterweight. I don't really have to worry about Khamzat until I have to worry about him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great because that's essentially saying I can't focus on him until he gets to a point where he is worthy of fighting for the middleweight belt. I thought that was very sensible coming from the champion because most times you hear, forget this guy. I don't care about him. I thought that was a very astute observation coming from Adesanya saying, look, I understand he's out there, he's looming, but I can't focus on him. I got to focus on Cannonier. I have to focus on Strickland. He even mentioned Darren Till in another interview. So there are guys out there aside from Khamzat who pose a threat, so he can't really worry about Khamzat. That's the last thing I'll say about this, but Izzy has some guys out there that are still clawing at him and trying to get him.
Yeah, I think Izzy has his work cut out for him at 85 again. Now that Brunson lost, I think he's probably going to retire. His next fight is going to be his retirement fight. Hopefully they give him like a fight night main event or something like that to let him go out with a bang. And yeah, I mean, Khamzat's great, but we have to see him against, I don't want to say high level competition because the Leech is a good fighter, but if I'm being real, the Leech isn't an elite level fighter.
He's not Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
He's got to be Gilbert Burns.
Tomato shots and stuff like that. You have to beat a Gilbert Burns. And not for nothing, I don't want to get too deep into it because I'm not the biggest fan of Gilbert Burns at 170, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, Khamzat has his work cut out for him, and Israel Adesanya has 2 or 3 guys that we know he will have to get through before Khamzat is even a question. So, and Kevin Holland is still there. I know he went down to 170, but Kevin Holland is always looming. Kevin Holland and Izzy would be a great fight, and I do think Kevin Holland would be able to sell that fight. Those two could easily headline and sell out in Texas again because, you know, Holland's from there or anywhere really. But I do think Izzy has some names. Khamzat is not one of them on my radar personally at middleweight. Welterweight, yeah. Kamaru, you need to worry about him. But first off, you got to worry about Leon Edwards. I don't think Kamaru's getting through him. But that's another story for another day.
Oh, man, you cannot drop that ball. I wish I could respond to that.
Yeah.
I hate you for that. Why'd you do that?
We'll touch on it. We'll touch on it another time. Let Kamaru heal his hand up. Kamaru Dean, get ready. You know, Leon in Abu Dhabi. Leon was working with Darren Till. You know, it's not sweet. That's all I got to say.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of Strikes and Submissions. Peace.
Get up, let me begin. This